Hello, boys and girls. Welcome back to the channel. Today I ask the central question, is doxing ever all right? Stay tuned. Welcome back yet again. Do be sure that you smash all the buttons. If you are not subscribed, then what are you waiting for? It's free. Click the bell icon so you're notified when new episodes come out, and do be on the lookout for our second channel. We are going to be launching a beginner-focused channel that is maybe a different brand, but be on the lookout for that, and do be supportive. Do tell your noob friends who need to get up to speed on cryptocurrency. But today I want to go over a couple of pieces. First off, the main news is actually not what I have up on screen right now, but this piece by Decrypt Media, or Jeff John Roberts over at Decrypt Media, about the doxing and the outing of the founders of the Bored Ape Yacht Club. And this is, I realize this is a couple of days old now as far as the actual doxing goes. The image that you see right here that was also on the thumbnail is a couple of days old at this point, but this is an ongoing question. We're going to see this as a major problem into the future. So we have to ask these questions. But there's an op-ed piece over at CoinDesk that I wanted to use to kind of frame this conversation. And this op-ed piece is called "Don't Let Web3 Repeat Web 2's Mistakes." This is by Tor Blair. And definitely appreciate a bit of the content and the substance of this piece here. But to jump to some highlights that I have, the Web 2 economy was built on a simple idea: collect a cheap resource at scale, user data, then repackage and monetize access to it as an expensive product. It gave users near unlimited ability to create content and connect globally while giving advertisers a captive audience. Now, what are we referring to? We're referring to, of course, Facebook, Google, and then other large-scale corporations such as, well, Twitter, large-scale platforms like Twitter and then Instagram before they were acquired by Facebook, as well as any other major platform like Snapchat and the rest. Social media platforms don't differ all that much other than their delivery mechanisms, but he's right. The Web 2 economy is just that. Make sure that people give away their personal information and allow themselves to be spied on or exploited by these companies in exchange for useful tools. Google Docs, website builders, blog creation, all of the microblogging platforms we used to call them. They're not even called microblogging platforms anymore. That's what they were initially understood to be from a marketing perspective, as well as bulk email services even. Things like MailChimp. We don't think of MailChimp as Web 2, but it does kind of fit the description of what's laid out here for Web 2. Let people do things they want to do. Give them a competitive advantage even by way of small to mid-sized businesses, mom and pop, Main Street stores, and then collect all the data that they can possibly give you. And then you can use that to sell to other advertisers. It's worked quite well for a long time now. Hundreds of billions of dollars in ad revenue collected. But along the way, he says user privacy was not merely ignored, it was abandoned. Yeah, that was the feature. That was the main reason for it happening. But fast forward to today, and we've got Web 3, right? We've got the Bored Ape Yacht Club. We've got OpenSea. We've got the Rareables and the Nifty Gateways and all of the other platforms for NFT creation, dissemination, buying, and selling. These marketplaces that empower artists or should empower artists to be able to further their interests and sell their wares. But there's a little bit of a catch, right? A little bit of a caveat there. And that is that there's still some crossover between the old world and the new world. But back to this initial framing, though, here, he says almost every Web 2 company has dealt with massive privacy failings and data breaches, from Uber to Equifax to LinkedIn to Alibaba. And this is true. If you've been on any of these platforms, you know that your information is out in the wind already, as it is. In fact, there is a known exploit from Facebook, the Facebook hack, that has kind of been rolling forward, a LinkedIn hack at this point. It's been rolled forward into a data set that is around 4 terabytes worth of user data, and it just keeps snowballing. It's been acquired, keeps falling into the hands of new gray hats or black hats or just marketers who are motivated enough to access this file so they can use it for their own marketing purposes, their own campaigns. Here within the cryptocurrency scene, it's sort of well understood that the Ledger hack from Ledger Devices, the Ledger hardware wallet, that when its user database was leaked, that list has gone to various projects within the space, whether it's coin projects that are trying to get more interest, garner more interest in their project, or other hardware manufacturers, other hardware devices, hardware wallet manufacturers trying to compete with Ledger and then spamming that list. This has been a known problem because privacy is not respected by these centralized systems. And it's kind of all part and parcel of Web 2, right? Web 2 and that mentality of build a website, gather information, and then you store it for your own benefit to do marketing later on. But it goes on to say, the lofty promises of Web 3 don't actually solve the core problem. While the blockchain world is indeed far more open than Web 2, it's actually far less private. Unfortunately, blockchains are nothing but metadata, right? They just keep metadata about transactions and about ownership, and that's it. So they're actually designed to leak metadata because they leak all user data by default. They're public ledgers. They're just distributed public ledgers. So you don't need to be Cambridge Analytica, but anyone who glances at the blockchain has access to this information. He says the dominant public by default model means users must give up control of their data by default as well. This is what it means to participate in Web 3 right now. Unfortunately, you want a Bored Ape? Well, you're going to not only pay the price, you're also going to be publicly known to be the wallet that owns that Bored Ape. Now, whether or not people can connect your public identity with that Bored Ape is a different story. But unfortunately, there may be ways to de-anonymize you. We'll go over that in just a second here. But scrolling down the list says, unfortunately, Facebook and some of the Web 2 players have been taking an interest in the future of Web 3. And Chainalysis, of course, is just is a juggernaut in the de-anonymization space for blockchain and cryptocurrencies. But Web 2 companies, Facebook, I struggle to call them Meta. It just feels like a really dumb branding choice because it's one of those unenforceable trademark names, right? Like Meta, it's a prefix to common words, for crying out loud. Why would you choose that as your business name? Facebook, please reconsider all of your choices at this point. But Facebook, they're trying to bridge the gap, moving from Web 2 and then getting into the metaverse, right? The idea that there could be a Web 3 model for ownership, but there could also be tie-ins to a Web 2 data aggregation system. The entire point is to marry the two of permissionless ownership of digital assets and NFTs and the like, but also pin it down to your real world identity using the insecure storage systems and practices of Web 2. Yikes. He goes on to say, these are two bad choices: an open metaverse that leaks data, all data by design, and a metaverse owned and operated by the same companies that routinely exploit user data. We need to actively reject both. Web3 and open metaverse must embrace privacy by design, protect users by default, and allow them to consent and benefit from the use of their data. That's kind of an end note that I wanted to just highlight there in this piece, and I thoroughly appreciate it. Do go check it out. Link, of course, is in the description of this video. As always, when I cite a source, you have access to it directly, so you can read it for yourself. But very much appreciate Tor's words there. But let's take a look at the main event, and that is that the Bored Ape Yacht Club founders were doxxed. Their information was released, but the question is, was it wrong or was it journalism? Is there any value in knowing who these people are? Is there any value specifically in doing an expose? And then, of course, how can we prevent something like this from happening in the future if we don't want it to happen? Or how do we just cut to the chase and know who founders are from the beginning, from the get-go, if we are interested in knowing who founders are? Well, let's go through this article really briefly. Decrypt did a great job in publishing Mr. Roberts' work here. Jeff did a great job on this article as well. But Bored Ape Yacht Club, it's one of the most prestigious and one of the most visible and one of the most well-branded and one of the most well-known groups of NFTs or collections of NFTs in the high-end NFT collecting world, with some of these NFTs going for ultra-high sums. Now, there's no accounting for taste, and I don't want to comment on that. I don't want to say anything negative or positive about the Bored Ape Yacht Club collection, nor the valuation of the Bored Ape Yacht Club pieces. These guys are successful, though, and I respect the heck out of that. They've hustled, and they've networked, and they've gotten this collection into the public awareness in a way that very few other projects have. So So whatever, that's the current state of their hard work. It's paid off. But then on Friday, BuzzFeed published an investigation revealing the identity of two of the four Bored Ape Yacht Club co-founders. And we'll go ahead and pull that up right here. We found the real names of Bored Ape Yacht Club's pseudonymous founders. Katie, good for you. Good for you. That's great. You did it. That's awesome. But here's kind of the issue. Yes, it's very popular. Yes, it's very public. But also, Bored Ape Yacht Club is set up and owned by a corporation. And that corporation has a filing. So I love also they kind of cut to the chase. Turns out these apes are two fairly ordinary 30-somethings from Florida named Wiley and Greg. So there you go, Wiley and Greg. Once had literary aspirations, then got into crypto. The company behind Bored Ape Yacht Club, Yuga Labs, confirmed their identities after BuzzFeed's report. So that's just it. Like, there is a company, a corporation called Yuga Labs. And if you watched the channel for any length of time and heard us talk about sort of corporate filings and understanding the law and how it intersects with ownership and cryptocurrencies, without giving advice, I actually have to do this, guys. Sorry. Got to give you the disclaimer. None of this is meant to be any kind of advice. You do need to do your own research. And in the event, or in the case of setting up corporations or doing your taxes, you need to consult with a qualified professional. Don't go watching a YouTube video like this and then claiming that I led you astray. That's just not how any of this works. And frankly, it doesn't really hold up in a court of law either. Do your own research and retain the counsel of legal professionals, people who are qualified to give you the specific help that you need. All right, back to the main event, though. This is a corporation, and if you've been watching the channel for a while, you know we talk about that. There are some states that are better than others in terms of understanding how crypto ownership can pertain to an individual or to a corporation, and then there are some states that are really business friendly. And they're not always the same states, right? You have to shop carefully when you're looking for a place to set up your corporation. But this is a corporation, and they did run the Bored Ape Yacht Club. Now, being that they're a publicly listed corporation, there are public filing documents that are available for anybody who's interested in hunting them down to go and take a look at. Why? Because that system of business registration has been public for decades. It's just part of how that works. And in certain states, they're made public by default, and in other states, they can be made private by default. And not every state handles that the same way. But in the case of Yuga Labs, they are a public company with these filing documents, basically entirely public and open for anybody to see. So there were members of the community that got upset, right? So Kobe called the article trash. You had Tom saying, I'm interested in arguments for reconsidering whether it's in the public interest to know the real identities of owners of big businesses. This is a bit of a cop-out. Businesses worth billions can't just play they're just cartoons on the internet thing. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about it, to be honest. I don't know that it is in the public interest to reveal the identities of these people, but I also don't know that it actually matters that they were doxxed because they're associated with this corporation that is publicly filed. You see where I'm going here? The systems of Web 2 that created that model of placing everything online, including the ability to file a corporation online, which is where the state began to move. And by the state, I mean all government entities in every physical state of the union here in the United States, or every country, or every municipality, or every province, right, of other nations throughout the world. It's become an increasingly popular thing for these states to offer self-serve portals for all kinds of paying taxes and utilities and whatever else you could possibly want to do with government. They followed the Web 2 model, and in many cases use similar levels of security to many Web 2 providers. So I don't know if I can agree or disagree strongly with either side of this thing. where I just think, okay, well, you're using insecure systems, relatively insecure systems, to register a relatively public document about a corporation, which you're going to have to file taxes on and generate reports for at least annually, if not quarterly. And you're going to have to sign with your identity. You are public when you create this sort of corporate formation. And now you're associating blockchain properties, right? Blockchain owned digital assets to this company. I don't know that I can totally fault Katie for doing this. It's just weird. So yeah, it's a little bit strange. The bit of witch hunt that Ryan went on to try to find something nasty to say about Katie, I don't know if I agree with that. I don't think we need to drag this person through the mud, but I also don't think we need to applaud this person for doing anything noble, right? I just don't think that I don't think that it was warranted. I don't think that it actually is in public interest per se. I don't know that it really matters. But the idea, accountability in the age of crypto. Well, they are accountable now because it's understood that they are that they were created by a corporation. It was only a matter of time under those conditions, only a matter of time before, whether it was Katie or somebody else, this information came out in similar fashion from some other outlet of people just saying, yeah, we looked it up. It was easy. All we had to do was essentially backtrace them to this corporation and then figure out who was there. But here you go. Gabe says it, I think, pretty well. He says, calling this doxing, but it's ultimately standard business reporting. Calling it illegitimate implicitly asserts that only certain wealthy, connected people should continue to know the identities behind folks orchestrating billions in transactions. Now, I think this is also an extremely blue-collar, and I say that in the kindest way, extremely blue-collar mentality, where this is a bit of sort of like a rather proletariat thinking, right? Where you just project onto anybody operating in this space the attributes of being ultra wealthy and privileged. That's not true either. Anybody can create a corporation, in some cases for as little as $50. So please stay in your lane, Gabe. Standard business reporting, because they're the privileged elite few, that's not true either. That's just not true. There are millions of people who file for corporate formations every single year in this country. And by the numbers, they can't all be, elites orchestrating billions in transactions. That's just not how it works. So please calm down. But he's not wrong in terms of it being kind of standard business reporting to just see who filed this corporate filing. Not too weird. Tatiana as well reveals how many people lack basic business knowledge. Even if you're running a private company, you still must file paperwork with the government to disclose company founder names, location, corporate structure. The regulations vary by state, but still. She's right. She is right. Even if it's $1 billion brand, even if you had trillions of dollars under management, you would have to file corporate formation documents, yearly accounting or annual reporting, semi-annual reporting, depending on the state. And this information will be out there. That's the point. If you wanted to couch it in that kind of a corporate formation. Now, other NFT collections, they approach this differently. But kind of going back right there. The best journalism is mostly publishing secrets from leakers, air quote, or sources. People are okay with this because it usually targets the powerful, like politicians or corporations. The anger depends on whether you think crypto billionaires are the powerful or regular folks. That's a kind of a more balanced take, I think. And then Maxwell here as well saying the anger at BuzzFeed revealing the creators of Bored Apes says a lot about what the next 5 years will look like. This is a brand raising millions of dollars from one of the world's most powerful VC firms at a $4 billion valuation, yet people believe they are just like them. I don't disagree with that. I think that there is the strong need for a reckoning in the NFT space and an understanding. At Decentral in Miami, I moderated a panel where I was on stage with a couple of great guests who talked very openly about the difference between VC-backed NFT launches and more organic, creator-driven launches. But they were very approachable. And I don't like that there's a division drawn here, saying, yeah, they're not just like you. I'm sorry, I spoke to these people. They're very much like me. They've got 2 eyes, 2 ears, a nose, a mouth. They put their pants on 1 leg at a time. And when they work with VC firms, they have to go and talk to other people who look just like them. I mean, that's just business. They had to go network and they had to make something happen. So yeah, I don't like that there's this massive division. The provenance of NFTs coming from VC backing or from other groups, it's not always what you think it is. It's also, when you see an air quotes organic launch, that's not always what you think it is either. So yeah, this is a very, very tricky business to be involved in. But here's one of them. One of the founders is saying, well, doxed anyway. Here we go. Here's Web 2 me versus Web 3 me. And then the other as well, saying, okay, here you go. And it kind of set off a wave of people also doing the same. It's kind of interesting. Funny thread to look at on Twitter if you want to take a look at all the people who joined in solidarity, saying, well, here's Web 2 me and here's Web 3 me. But it does underscore the same problem, guys. We don't have good systems that by default are protecting user data. And we absolutely need, on EVM style chains and on other blockchains, we need to build this in as a primitive. Privacy by design, protection that lets users know by default their data is not just being leaked, and then explicit consent to be able to share information. Not because people have something to hide, but because they need to have something to hope for and build towards in the future. I mean, you figure if the information is private by default, then that means it's also not discoverable by default. So you tell me what you think down in the comment section. This was a bit more involved, but I feel pretty strongly about this, guys. I think privacy is a fundamental human right. And I think that we make a huge mistake in believing that doxing is the answer, or that it's okay, or that it's just an inevitable part of using blockchain. I think we can do better. I think we can design systems so that they function better. But tell me down in the comment section, what did you think of this piece? This is I went a little farther out of my way to talk more about privacy and talk more about this particular issue. Do you think it was right to dox these people? Do you think it was wrong? Why? Do you think that they should have even bothered creating this collection in the context of being a corporation that worked with VC backing? What do you think is the right way to launch things like this? If there is VC backing, if there is corporate backing, then what can be done to launch correctly in the future? Would you like to see a mini-series that's a little more tactical? This is more me kind of free-flowing and talking about this kind of stream of consciousness style. But would you like to see more content where we talk about the specifics of this and why I think it would be more important to focus on privacy than just chasing profit? Tell me in the comment section. Appreciate you watching at this point, guys. You're the Make This Media. I love your face. See you soon. Thanks for watching all the way to the end of the video. Be sure to like and subscribe, and then check out mineyour.biz to sign up for Mine Your Biz Insiders, our exclusive newsletter where we talk about all kinds of mining deals, crypto-oriented deals, security deals, privacy deals, and everything that we can't personally bring you here on the channel, but can talk to you about in email. Also, check out our swag shop where you can see the Mine Your Biz phone. You can also see dedicated sites for Bitcoin, Monero, and other meme coin swag, as well as our friends over at Flux Network. All right, guys, thanks for watching to the end. You know I love your face. Remember to stay private and mind your biz.